First, the internet came for her, then the headlines. All because she told a man with a dog, "You need to leave." That was all she said. No raised voice, no apology, just 5 words, delivered flat, like a sealed envelope. Then she turned and walked back behind the counter. The cafe went silent. An older man sat near the window, gray at the temples, sharp-eyed, quiet. His hand rested on the back of a large black German shepherd. No vest, no leash, but the posture, trained, unmistakably trained. The man didn't argue, didn't blink, just stood, smoothed his coat, walked out with the dog at his side. The bell over the door gave one dull chime. Then came the whispers, "Did she just kick out a veteran? Was that a service dog? What the hell is wrong with her?" Phones came out. A few caught the tail end, a man, a dog, a waitress walking away. By noon, the clip was on 3 local Facebook groups, climbing. Her name was Harper Cole, 38, former Army medic, now assistant manager at Haven Hollow Cafe, 3 blocks from a VA hospital and 6 blocks from where she lost most of herself in 2009. She didn't watch the video, didn't defend herself, didn't explain. Not when the calls came, not when her manager asked if she'd been drinking, not when corporate suspended her, pending a community backlash review. She just said, "Okay," and took off her apron. Outside, the world had already decided. The man's name was Jacob Mercer, Marine Corps veteran, Bronze Star. The local news called him a pillar of dignity. They said he walked out of that cafe with honor, even after being publicly humiliated. They ran a still frame, Jacob looking over his shoulder, the dog at his heel, Harper blurred in the background, like a ghost who didn't belong. But what no one knew was this: Harper had met that dog before, and she knew, with bone-deep certainty, what looked like a service animal wasn't. Not yet, not safely. Harper didn't talk about the war, not to customers, not to co-workers, not even to her sister, who still sent Christmas cards addressed to "my hero." She wasn't a hero, she was a medic, and in her view, she didn't save lives. She just carried what was left. Afghanistan 2009. She was embedded with the 14th Battalion out of Camp Pendleton. Her job was to treat wounds no one trained her for. Blown open chests, burned hands, the kind of trauma you couldn't patch, only witness. One name stayed with her: Corporal Eli Mercer. He was 22, sharp-tongued, shot in the shoulder during a night ambush. Harper had stabilized him under fire. He joked through the whole thing, said he missed California, asked her to write his dad. She never got the chance. He died 2 days later in evacuation. But the dog? That dog lived. Tango, the unit's canine, trained to detect IEDs and to stay close when everything else fell apart. After Eli died, Tango wouldn't eat, wouldn't move, just laid his head on the cot where Eli slept. When Harper came home, she assumed Tango had been reassigned, retired maybe. She never expected to see him again, not until last week. Jacob Mercer walked into the cafe with a dog that didn't just resemble Tango. It was Tango. Same burn scar on the front left paw, same eyes, always scanning, like he was searching for something he'd lost. But this wasn't the same dog. Not really. No vest, no command responses, no structure. Just a leash, looped loosely, like an afterthought. And Jacob? He didn't look at the dog, didn't use his name, didn't treat him like a partner. Harper watched the whole thing from the bar. Jacob wasn't with the dog. He was hiding behind him, dragging the ghost of his son into public spaces like a shield, pretending to be okay when everything about him said otherwise. That's why she told him to leave, not to shame him, to stop him, because she knew better than anyone what happened when grief dressed up like healing. The knock came just after sundown. Mara was out walking her dogs. Harper had just made tea. She opened the door expecting a neighbor, or worse, another reporter. Instead, Jacob Mercer. He wasn't angry, wasn't smug. He just stood there, brown leather jacket, hand clenched around a crumpled leash. Behind him, Tango, sitting at attention. Not because he was commanded, because he remembered her. The dog's ears perked, his body leaned forward. Harper didn't move, neither did Jacob. Finally, he spoke. "I didn't come to fight." She nodded. "Why are you here?" His jaw worked like it was chewing concrete. "I saw the clip, heard what they said, but you didn't say anything." "No," she said quietly. "I didn't." "You knew him, didn't you?" "Eli." The name landed like a round fired into silence. She stepped aside. No words. They sat in the kitchen. No lights. Just golden dusk through the curtains. Tango lay between them. Jacob exhaled hard. It wasn't grief that came out. It was rage, aged and brittle. They gave me medals, a flag, a plaque with words that meant nothing. He looked at the dog. "They said I could take him if I wanted. I said yes, didn't care about protocol, didn't want a therapist, didn't want a handler form, just wanted a piece of him that breathed." Harper didn't interrupt. She let him talk. "I walk around with him. People nod, think I'm strong, but I haven't slept, haven't spoken to his mother in months. You were the first one to call bullshit." His voice cracked. "Why?" She looked at Tango. "Because he didn't follow your lead, because you weren't holding the leash like someone in control, because you didn't know his name, and because I saw that dog curl up against your son's body after he died. Same place, same silence, like he was trying to keep him warm." Jacob blinked. Then he broke. He didn't cry. He dropped. Into the chair, into his hands, into the grief he'd been dragging behind him like a broken trailer hitch. And Harper finally said what no one else would. "You lost your son, but you don't get to lose yourself in him. Not like this. Not when that dog still has work left to do." Harper didn't plan to get involved. She'd already lost her job. Her name was mud online. She hadn't worn her uniform in a decade. But the next morning, she was at the base. Not because she had to be, because Jacob asked her to come. Fort Wallace was colder than she remembered, or maybe she was older, more bone-tired than war-tough. They walked the corridor marked Veteran Services and Canine Transition Unit. A captain met them at the door, clipboard in hand. Young, efficient, didn't look you in the eye unless you outranked him. "Mr. Mercer," he began, "we're still awaiting full certification. There are protocol issues." Harper cut in, steady, not forceful. "He's not here to demand anything." A pause. "He's here to start again." That afternoon, Jacob enrolled in full handler training. Harper volunteered to assist the sessions. It was slow going. Tango didn't respond at first. Jacob fumbled, grew impatient, nearly quit. But Harper was a rock, not soft, steady. "The dog doesn't follow pain," she reminded him. "He follows purpose." By week 3, something shifted. Jacob stopped calling Tango boy. He used his name. He stopped showing up late. He stopped staring at the floor. He stopped treating the dog like a gravestone and started treating him like a partner. On a Tuesday, Harper watched from the fence, black coffee in hand. Jacob finished a clean leash drill. He walked over, quiet. "You still think I shouldn't have had him?" She shrugged. "Not back then." A beat. "But now?" She smiled, barely. "Now, he's not your son's shadow. He's your dog." Jacob looked down. Tango sat at his feet. He gave the command, "Place." Tango moved without hesitation. Later that week, Harper got a call. Her old manager? The cafe had rehired her, quietly. No public statement, no apology, just a voicemail. "Your shift's open, if you want it." Then, also, the VA called, said you helped process a miracle. Harper didn't go back. Not yet. She had another shift to cover. And a dog who still looked at her like she was the last thread to a past he didn't understand, but trusted anyway. 3 months later, the clip resurfaced. But now, the caption read, "She saw what no one else did. She saved 2 lives that day." The video had changed. A second half had been added. Footage from Fort Wallace's canine graduation. Jacob Mercer in dress blues, Tango at perfect attention. Harper watching from the sidelines, unreadable. Back in town, the heat had faded. But something was different. People noticed a small framed photo near the cafe register. A dog, lying between 2 soldiers, one alive, one not. Beneath it, "Grief doesn't obey orders, but healing does." Harper never asked for it. Lena, the barista who once shadowed her, put it there herself. On the last Sunday of the month, Harper returned. Not to work, just to sit. Jacob met her there, held the door. No one noticed, except Tango. He walked straight to Harper's side, leaned into her leg, stayed there. She gave him one firm pat, whispered his name. He didn't move. Jacob looked over. "I think he still thinks you're his C.O." She smiled. "I never was, but I served with his best friend. That's something." They drank coffee in silence. No one interrupted. Before leaving, Harper walked to the back bulletin board. She pulled out a small envelope. Inside, a photo of Eli. She pinned it near the corner, far from the others. Above it, she taped a small card. Service means seeing what others miss, and acting anyway. As she left, someone held the door. A young man, nervous, neat, hollow-eyed. She nodded, stepped aside. He looked at her like he'd seen the clip, didn't say a word, just glanced at the board, at the dog, at the corner table, then sat down like he'd finally made it home. If this story moved you, if you've ever felt misunderstood, misjudged, or like your quiet truth was louder than the world would allow, then you are not alone. There are people like Harper, like Jacob, and yes, like Tango. Learning how to walk forward again, one command at a time, if you believe stories like this matter. Stories of loss, of redemption, of healing done in silence, then share this one. Subscribe for more stories that see what others miss. And if you've ever carried something heavy and didn't know where to put it, just toss it into the comments. It sometimes feels good to let that shit go. You've got a seat at the table.